Welcome to the Vergecast, the flagship podcast of new podcasts. I'm your friend David Pierce, and we have a super fun episode coming up. We're going to talk about YouTube and phone calls and all kinds of stuff. But first, I just want to quickly tell you about a show that we're launching. I'm super excited about this. We've been working on this show with a really awesome team of people like all year, and we finally get to show it to you. It's called Verge History, and we've been calling it a rewatch show about technology. Here, let me just play the trailer for you. You'll get the idea. Let me tell you about a show we're launching here at Verge. Do you ever watch or listen to those like rewatch podcasts where a bunch of people go through episode by episode and talk about all their favorite stories and all the stuff that they remember? We're going to do that, but with tech.
None of that existed back then.
That pared down funkiness of it still works.
We're talking about products from the Zune to Guitar Hero.
Wow, it's very 2005.
And software from LimeWire to BBM.
This was the selling point.
Going through how all this stuff came to be and why it matters.
I feel like when I hold it, I'm in some sort of 80s movie.
That's the whole Verge. That's what we do here.
Every week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It's called Verge History. Don't miss it. I have to tell you, I'm very, very excited about this show. So here's the way it's going to work. The show is launching Sunday, October 5th, and the first 8 episodes, we've made 8 episodes so far, and I think they're all very fun. I have a favorite, but I'm not going to tell you which one it is. The first 8 episodes are going to play on the Vergecast feed and on the Verge's YouTube. After that, we're going to keep making the show, but it's going to be on its own feed. It's going to still be on the Verge's YouTube channel, but it's going to be on its own podcast feed. So I'm going to spend the next 8 weeks reminding you to please go subscribe to Verge History wherever you get podcasts. And I will do it with increased urgency and fear and rage every single week. But really, this show is super fun. We have a great team of people who've been working really hard on it, and I cannot wait to show this thing to you because I think it's awesome. Verge History, October 5th. Go subscribe. All the links you need are down in the show notes. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. But for now, we have a Vergecast for you. And it's a good Vergecast. I'm very excited about this episode. We're going to do 2 things. First, we're going to talk about what's going on with YouTube. The company had one of its biggest product announcement events of the year last week and shipped some stuff that I found slightly confusing and slightly surprising. So Miyasato on our team is going to come on and help me make sense of it. Then it's going to be time for round 2 of David's somewhat deranged summer takes, which I'm very excited to shout into a microphone and have Jake and Hayden tell me how insane I am. We also have a question from the Vergecast hotline. Lots of stuff to get to. It's going to be a really fun show. All of that is coming up in just a second. But first, I have to go buy more old gadgets on eBay because thanks to Verge History, that's a thing I do now. This is the Vergecast. We'll be right back.
Support for the show comes from Framer. If you run a business, having a website is non-negotiable. But that doesn't mean you have to learn to code. And that's good, because let's be honest, you're already wearing a dozen hats just to keep your business afloat. Instead, you could try Framer. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. You can get inspiration from hundreds of templates or strike out on your own from a totally blank canvas. Multiplayer collaboration means your writer, designer, and marketer can all tweak the same page at once with no risk of corrupting version control. And under the hood, you'll get responsive breakpoints, built-in hosting, a flexible CSM, and privacy-friendly analytics so that you know what's working and what needs fixing. And at every step, Framer's AI-powered dev assistant helps you generate banners, pricing tables, navigation bars, and more, all specified to your palette and branding. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code VERGE to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code VERGE. Rules and restrictions may apply.
All right, we're back. Miyasato's here. Hi, Mia.
Hi.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Let's talk about YouTube ads.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, we should say we're recording Friday afternoon. It's been a week. But one of the things that I think actually got kind of lost in the shuffle this week, which is one of the things I want to talk about, is Made on YouTube. YouTube's sort of big annual creator event. And I think a thing you and I agree on is that YouTube is culturally way more important than it gets credit for, generally speaking. Like, do you remember years ago when everybody was like, why isn't YouTube getting dragged in front of Congress to answer for the content moderation stuff? And like, I agreed with a lot of that. And I still think YouTube is like a very important platform that we don't understand all that well. And I think you understand it better than most. And so I just want to talk through some of the new stuff and see if you can help me make sense of it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with live streaming, which I think surprised me a lot that it was a big focus at Made on YouTube this year. This is basically like, I want everybody to picture like a big, beautiful room filled with creators who love each other and YouTube. And that is like, this is very much like an event to just sort of bring those people together and tell them about all the lovely stuff that YouTube is doing for them. And so it's a real sort of statement of intent from the platform to be like, here is what matters on YouTube this year. And YouTube, as much as anything, picked live streaming. Just in principle, is that as surprising to you as it was to me?
Yeah, it seemed kind of random, honestly. And there was like a boatload of news this year specifically, I thought, even more than the other years that I've covered. But, I think the way that they described it was like, these are the biggest updates to live streaming that we've ever made. And I was like, why?
Right.
Yeah, it was really random.
Well, so try and make sense of it for me. Like, why? I think there's a cynical version of this that is like, YouTube has already won everything else, and now it is focusing on live. And I think on the back of like, YouTube did an NFL game that went medium, it is very clearly invested in this idea of live events being a thing on YouTube. And I think my read of this whole industry has been that live never quite became the thing we wanted it to be on the internet. There's lots of ways to live stream. Twitch is working. Like, there's tons of live stuff out there, but I don't feel like live, at least in my brain, is next to like short form vertical video or like, I don't know, blockbuster movies in the sort of huge pillars of culture. YouTube clearly wants it to be. Why do you think that is?
I mean, okay, first I have to say I have a quote. I've come prepared with a quote. If you look at YouTube as a series of products reverse engineered from advertising budgets, the company's many offerings start to make a kind of sense. Do you know who wrote that?
That sounds like me.
It's you. And so like the first lens that I would look at this is like, that's a lot of time for ads. That's a lot of time for putting stuff that YouTube gets a cut of. There are a couple things that YouTube announced that I think like specifically go into this. Like one, just I think this was a feature that already existed, but the ability to tag products in streams. Think about like the many, I mean, at least for like my demographic, beauty YouTube is like a huge place. That is where kind of the modern beauty content creator influencer started, is YouTube, doing like tutorials. Now all of those people do get ready with me streams on TikTok where they're using the products, telling you what it is, and hanging out for like an hour and a half while they do their makeup. YouTube sees that. Obviously they want a cut of that. And even better if they can like put the products into it. The other thing that YouTube announced was this sort of like ad experience where it doesn't interrupt the stream. I was watching a live stream on YouTube the week prior, and it was really annoying because I was watching a stream from like a news outlet carrying a press conference, and in the middle of them talking, it cut into an ad, like a mid-roll ad. And I was like, wait, I need to know. Don't do that, please. But now YouTube is saying, like, we can put your face on one side, the streamer's face on one side, and then the ad next to it, and it's an uninterrupted experience. And this really, to me, like, you see it happening on other mediums as well. Like, if you are a baseball fan, you know that it doesn't matter if Aaron Judge is at the plate, they're going to get a word in from Taco Bell, and it's going to be like 2 seconds long, and it's going to be seamless. So that's kind of like a straightforward way to think of it, is like, this is more surface. This is more ad surface. The other thing I was thinking about was like, and this is kind of like a dark example, but this video in video experience where, you can have one streamer reacting to another stream. I feel like the value proposition is just like so obvious because after Charlie Kirk was shot, everyone wanted to watch Hassan Piker react to it. And indeed, they did go. Thousands of people watched his Twitch stream where he was just reacting to like CNN or whatever. And, that's like, maybe they don't want to monetize that. Like, that's kind of, a specific kind of event. But think about like the Met Gala, award shows, VMAs just happened. Even the election on TikTok on election night, people were just streaming for hours watching returns come in and watching like counties and states being called. So it really makes sense to me. And we can talk about like the actual format of live streaming, but considering YouTube really wants this experience of being on every screen in your home, obviously they want this too.
Yeah, I think there's something to the sort of hang being the like thing that knits all of these ideas together in a really interesting way. And like, I'm glad you started by talking about the makeup stuff, because it's very clear that is top of mind at YouTube as they build product. And it was all over the place it made on YouTube. And I think with live in particular, like I confess I am not a person who watches Get Ready With Me streams, but I suspect you could go like line by line through the live streaming announcements and every one of them would make sense in context of Get Ready With Me streams. Like there's the practice before going live thing, which I think is very smart and is a good idea and like a fascinating sort of reflection of culture that we should talk about. But there's the thing where you can do horizontal and vertical lives simultaneously. Again, talking about your point, we want to be on every screen possible. That's the kind of thing that like most of these streams are just my face. That's a pretty easy thing to make work. You have the side-by-side ads, like you said, that works. You have the AI tagging of products that when a product shows on screen, rather than me having to tell you what it is and how to go get it, it'll just be like, it's this and have a link and send me out to buy it. That's
crazy.
like
I have to
all
say
of this
also.
is perfectly designed for like, I am a person using products in front of you and we're hanging out and we are going to monetize every single inch of this in a way that like feels grosser the longer you think about it, but also is just where all of these platforms have been headed for a while.
Yeah, actually I just got a like push notification on TikTok today that was like, there, by the way, did you know that there's a feature where TikTok will scan your video and look for products using AI, and it will create like an outward, like an internal app link to like more. So if they see that I have like a record player in the background, they'll create, I don't know if it's like the blue clickable links or what, but it's like, it will take you to a page where it's like searching for record players. And then if you're a viewer or a creator, you have the ability to like turn that off. And I need to still like figure out how to turn that off because I don't really want my content monetized like that. But some people do, right? And it really feels like we're coalescing around a thing that I have thought for a while, which is like every piece of content that we watch online is an invitation to buy something. And that's always been true because of like the ad-supported nature of these platforms, but it feels increasingly true right now, especially like post TikTok ascendance, where it is really just like it's a window into commerce. And I think that is, I mean, we can argue about whether that's good or bad, but it's kind of unavoidable.
Let's briefly argue about whether it's good or bad, because I think your point is right that I think that's just where we are. And I think one of the most fascinating things about TikTok was that it did the thing everybody else is doing, which is use videos to sell you stuff. It just did it so much more brazenly. Like Instagram spent so long trying to pretend that it was this sort of pure, beautiful place for art, and they were just kind of doing commerce over there. And then TikTok was like, what if all of the videos were just trying to sell you something? Like what? And it turns out people still watched those videos of like people reviewing candy became a huge thing on like, it just, these things have just smashed right into each other. And I think one of the things that has been interesting about YouTube is that it has actually been slower to some of that stuff. That I think they hold on to this idea that it is sort of the creator's place to be creative and that matters. And the idea that they're just now really whole hog into this idea of like, we are going to shopabilize the hell out of every single thing that you make for you. It does seem like a tone shift on the platform.
Yeah, I think also, you know, a lot of creators think of YouTube still as sort of the place where polished work goes. And I've heard this come from a lot of, like, when the TikTok ban seemed like truly imminent, I don't even know, like 6 months ago, you know, there was a sense of like, where will I go? And a lot of creators were saying, I'm trying to learn YouTube, right? Learn YouTube.
Interesting.
And that is because there is more of like, you know, I think people still think of it as like a mid to long form place. There's a little bit more like advanced editing that's happening. You're not just like camera in front of you yapping. You need some sort of like cadence. You need a good title. You need a good thumbnail. You need a good description that's like SEO'd to hell. And so I think there's a sense of like, you know, there is a barrier to entry for YouTube. And I think YouTube knows this also, that goes into like the practice thing, that goes into a lot of the AI driven creator tools in the background that I wrote about earlier this week for Made On. And yeah, I think that YouTube kind of wants a piece of this like off the cuff, easy, literally no production value streams. And the live stream stuff is really interesting because to me, that is truly like an endlessly generative content style. What is different from a stream is different from like a traditional video in that literally any moment can be a stream. Like I follow a few TikTok creators who their whole thing is they have like a selfie stick, they're walking around New York City and they're just responding to comments for hours and hours and hours, and that pays the bills. And that is something I think that YouTube rightfully sees as being like a way that people consume content. Some people like to watch streams because you don't have to swipe. Like, people are lazy.
Sure.
Some people watch streams because they're really invested in a specific person, where if they can watch you do a thing in real time, they will watch it and send you GIFs. Obviously, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, YouTube also had like a tool that they announced where it will cut down pieces of your stream to become other types of content like shorts or mid-form or whatever. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? They need more content. They want people to make more stuff. And so of course they're going to, one, tell people to stream for hours, and two, give you an easy way to just like pull that out into more like permanent content.
That's really interesting because that makes live streaming sound simultaneously both really high stakes and really low stakes, right? Like it's designed to be the most human, off-the-cuff version of this, but it's also like it becomes the sort of entry point for both a lot of your audience and a lot of your content, which makes this practice thing even more interesting. Tell me why you think the practice before you go live feature is fascinating.
Okay, this one truly perplexed me because I think like I understand the utility, right? If you are maybe like a dancer and you're going to stream practice that day, right? You are a dancer at one of these like viral, also like popularized by YouTube dance studios, and you're going to just like stream your practice.
Sure.
Maybe I'm just making up a thing, but I understand that. But also it's so funny to me. You're going to practice to be off the cuff. You're going to practice to be live with your fans. It's just like, it's so weird. And I
hate to be the one to break this mirage for you, Mia, but that is kind of how it works.
Totally. But the idea that there needs to be like a dedicated feature and
Fair.
kind of like a pulling back the curtain moment where it's just like, we're just going to straight up say like, none of this stuff is organic. None of this stuff is like authentic, really, in the way that viewers might be led to believe. Like, we're going to just put a practice screen, like a green room into this. It's so funny to me. And I think this kind of feeds into another thing I've been thinking about, which is just like, we can talk about it later. I want to hear what you think about practice. But this idea that tech platforms and social media platforms have never been more open with what they want. It is just in a weird way. And yeah, we'll get into that later. But what do you think about practice?
We are very much in the like saying the quiet part loud phase of things.
Loud as hell.
The practice feature made me think of like, did you ever have that moment when you learned how reality TV shows actually work, and that there are like producers in the background being like, you guys should fight about this, or like you see my wife and I watch house shows all the time, and there's always that moment where it's like the couple sitting at a table drinking smoothies, like talking about how much money they're going to make from this house. And it's like, until you start thinking about it, it all feels sort of natural and normal. And then it's like, oh, no, this is like days later. They've already had this conversation 6 times, and a producer just sat them down and said, and now talk about how much money you're going to make from selling this house. And it's as soon as it, like, the veil is lifted, it starts to feel weird. And now I watch these shows, and my wife and I like have made a game out of trying to figure out what's off the cuff and what isn't. And it just changes the way that you look at all of these things. And it's like some of this stuff, like the practice before going live, and even the way that we're talking about like AI product tagging, it's like this stuff has always been more intentional and more thought out and more rehearsed and more practiced than you want it to be. It's just that the shame of that is completely gone. And in a lot of ways, I think that's fine, right? Like we should stop pretending that this stuff is real life when it's not.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it actually changes the appeal in a lot of ways that it's not real life, but it isn't. It never has been, and we should stop talking about it like it is.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see every platform, and I think YouTube, to your point, is like the last one to really get on board with the idea of like, this is a ruthless money-making machine and we're going to start showing it to everybody. And that's okay.
And we're not sorry.
No,
you know
right.
what I mean?
It's just,
like,
this is what we're doing here.
Yeah, for sure. I wrote about this in my piece that I published around Made On when I was writing about like behind the scenes creator tools. But it really feels like it's a new era, both for the platforms and also for creators online. Like in that story, I wrote about how I talked a little bit about how, like, you know, historically, we've really talked about platforms being black boxes. And to some extent, that's still true. Like there's a lot in the algorithm that we don't know. There's a lot in, you know, internal conversations and discussions at these companies that creators aren't privy to. There are things that we don't know about how they operate, but also it feels like it's never been clearer, right? And it's because the platforms will just come out and say it. What they want from creators. And I think of it almost as like, I see it as really mirroring what happened in SEO. And it's just like, we're just going to tell you what to make and how to make it.
Right.
When TikTok changes its creator fund, where only people who make videos over 1 minute are eligible, it's just saying, make longer videos. We want to compete with YouTube. Stop making your little 15-second things. We want long videos. We want long form. We want you to make videos in horizontal, which is like a thing that they did at one point. YouTube is giving creators tools to just like use this and figure out which thumbnail and title combination your viewers like best that lead to the highest watch time. Just do it. Like, we'll tell you. Previously, that was all stuff that creators had to kind of like figure out themselves. And, you know, these optimizing, this kind of like ruthless optimizing is beneficial for both parties, right? YouTube wants people watching videos longer. I don't think they really care what videos they are. They just want more watch time.
Yeah.
Creators specifically want people to be watching their videos. And so, I mean, it makes sense. I can see why creators wanted a tool like the thumbnail and title thing for so long, but it's really fascinating to me. You know, YouTube is giving you an AI chatbot that just tells you what's wrong with your content and is like, change this.
Right.
Like, you didn't do the intro right. Like, change this next time. And yeah, like on TikTok, there will be like, sometimes when you search for things on TikTok, there will be like a weird little box that TikTok shows you that says like, hey, there's not that much content about this search term. Why don't you just make it? Like,
Interesting.
It's so funny to me. It's really, really interesting. And I think like this is kind of what is happening with live on YouTube right now. They're like, we don't think enough people are streaming here. We don't like, maybe they don't like dislike, but you know, we want a different type of streamer on here. They're trying to court those people. So now they're like, why don't you just stream and just like make your videos from your streams?
Right.
That's what we want.
And what we've learned over the years is that these platforms have all of the tools and all of the leverage in that debate, right? Like, because you get to a point where it's like, okay, if I'm going to keep making what I want, even if it's against what quote unquote the platform wants and what the algorithm wants, and I'm eventually just going to be making videos into a void because what the algorithm will show people and what the platform wants has moved away from me. And I think we've seen, and you and I both talked to a lot of people who are stuck in that place of like, I know what works and I know what I want to do, and putting those things together is an increasingly big challenge. And I think especially right now, YouTube is being increasingly clear about what it wants. And it has all of the levers to pull to make people who do more live streaming be more successful, right? Like it just can do that. Your lives don't have to be good. YouTube can still put them in front of people and they can be great. And if YouTube doesn't put them in front of people, you're hosed. And so I think it's just like we've seen YouTube going from sort of pretending that creators lead the dynamic to, like you said, telling creators what to do. And TikTok, sort of to its credit, was the one that has enabled a lot of this because it never pretended otherwise. TikTok was always a place to ruthlessly optimize your content to be viewed by as many people as possible. It was a marketing platform, and it has been an enormously successful one. And YouTube was always the one that was like, okay, go get big audience discovery gaming the TikTok algorithm, and then come here and make your art. And
Totally.
that it is completely losing that pretense kind of every day.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because it's like you kind of see this dynamic play out in different ways on different platforms. Like there's a reason why every Instagram photographer is now a Reels, like an Instagram Reels photographer or whatever. It's just like that is what it is. And I think YouTube still is trying to hold on to this idea that they are the creator platform, like you said. And some of the stuff, when you read it, it just like really punctures that veil. And I think I'm curious how YouTubers react to it. Because I think it's true that like not everyone wants to stream. Not everyone wants to be on live. And there's like I'm curious like what level of resistance really is tenable.
Yeah, like how much can you fight this and still be viable on YouTube is going to be an interesting question.
Yeah.
I have to let you go here in a minute, but let's talk about AI just before we do, because we've talked a little bit about it, and this is like the second or third year in a row that AI was a big story of Made On, and not just like AI as a sort of behind the scenes tool to help you answer comments and manage whatever. AI as like a creative tool for shorts in particular. And this year they're just like, just do a prompt and it'll make a short for you and publish your shorts. And it's like, what's your... I have not seen a ton of that. I was saying this on Friday's show, but I deleted Instagram and TikTok from my phone for the summer as a way to be like, I'm on parental leave. I'm going to spend my time with my child and not on YouTube. And what actually happened is I just watched a lot of YouTube shorts. I encountered almost no like generative AI stuff on shorts, but I understand that that's like my own algorithm. But I'm curious, like, are you seeing this stuff take off? This idea that like upload a photo to YouTube and tell it what to do, and it'll use AI to add motion and turn it into a dance challenge, and you can make that a short? Like,
I don't know if it's like working? That level. I think there is a level of slop, and like I think a couple weeks ago or a month ago, that was kind of the fear, right? That YouTube was like tweaking something about its policies for monetization, and people freaked out because they thought that it meant anyone who's using AI in their videos would be affected. And then they went back and clarified, and it's like, no, we're just updating what we mean by like spammy content, right? I think they changed the name to inauthentic. But yeah, I think they probably recognize that this is a way that people have been filling the platform with garbage. I think that's true across platforms, whether they're using the in-app tools or not. Like TikTok is filled with AI sludge. One time, actually, like I wrote a story and then I found a video of an AI-generated avatar reciting my story back to me. And I was like, whoa, what is happening? It's interesting because I think that YouTube is kind of like talking out of its mouth on one side, and then there's like everything else that's happening in the background, which is that millions of YouTube videos have been trained on without the creator's permission.
Yep.
And YouTube has been sort of like staying out of it for the most part. There is actually a great piece in The Atlantic where you can search for creators and see, what videos were trained on. And it's a lot of like how-to content. But at the same time, it's also like encouraging content creators to use these tools. And I really wonder how creators feel about that. If this bot can also like come up with video ideas, write the script, dub your lips, right? To like do the lip matching for voice, for like lip syncing with dubs. What is your job? It can also edit your shorts, by the way, right? Like that's
such a good version of the question, because I think like the pro case for all of this stuff, which it's actually sympathetic to, is that it makes it easier to make stuff. And I think what we have seen, generally speaking, is that when technology makes it easier to make stuff, people make more stuff. Some of it is bad, some of it is good. And like the idea of these tools is like democratizing forces to help creative people make more stuff, I think is awesome. But this question of what is your job, I think is like the question in front of both the people making these tools and the people using them. Because you're right, like I could sit here, I could type one line into YouTube's backend and it could make the short, it could edit the short, and it could publish the short, and it could optimize the short, and it could put it out. And that might get a lot of views. That feels like a bad outcome for like big human ways that I can't even necessarily describe. That feels like a bad outcome. And I think what seems to me is that a lot of creators are going to have to spend the next year or years trying to figure out what they do here and what the thing is that makes them different. Because it's like everyone is going to have access to these same tools that do the same mediocre job for you.
Yeah.
What do you do here? And how do you elevate this stuff? And I feel like that just gets murkier and murkier with every one of these new tools that gets added that is just a new thing you don't even have to do anymore.
Yeah. And if you're just the person on the screen, well, guess what? They have something for that too. Like, it's just like, I really, really wonder, we should have like a bunch of content creators on here. And I would love to ask, like, do you feel the fear of like job replacement? You know what I mean? That other workers do, because you are a worker. And yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. It's really weird. And also, do audiences care? Right? Do they care if your scripts are all written by AI now? That you're getting all your ideas from YouTube's like in-app, like AI bot?
Right.
I don't know.
It's a great question. And how do those viewers show you that they care too? Right? Because it's like what we keep hearing is basically the numbers keep going up, and I just keep thinking about this company that I forget the exact name of it, and I'm glad to not be able to say it out loud. But basically, their thing was, we're going to make infinity podcasts, and every one of those podcasts is going to get 10 listeners, but it's so cheap for us to make, and we're going to do it at such incredible volume that it's going to make us money.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, that's probably going to work. On the other hand, that sucks, and I hate it. And I want that thing to not exist, because what you're saying is we are going to flood this thing with so much crap that it's going to work, because it's going to work, because the volume will outplay the quality, and we're going to keep making money off of it. And like, again, that was the SEO play, was we are going to ruthlessly optimize our junk so that even if you click it by accident, it doesn't matter. We're still going to get paid. And you worry that like we as viewers, who our main thing to do is scroll, if you hit the video, they're going to make the money. And so it's like, my incentive is actually to make more of this stuff if all I care about is just getting views, even 5 at a time.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, and I do think these platforms know, and I think YouTube knows better than most, that if it lets itself be completely overrun by this slop, it will be a long-term bad decision.
Totally.
And like, if your platform's offerings are the NFL and AI slop, you're in trouble. But I think every creator is going to have to figure this out for themselves, and these platforms are going to have to figure out, like, what is the line between useful thing we can do to help creator and thing that in the long run will actually destroy all of the quality stuff on our platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's also just like, we can't go operating at like where the goal is as much content as possible, because it is right. That's not good. There aren't enough people to watch it, frankly.
Yeah, like YouTube's good. Like, at some point, YouTube should just be like, actually, guys, everybody just like take a month off. We actually don't need any more stuff. We're just going to keep recirculating all the stuff people haven't watched. There's 50 lifetimes of things everybody likes already available to them. Y'all go take a vacation.
Yeah.
I think nothing would change.
I don't think I completely agree. I completely agree. Especially now with this live stream stuff, I'm like, oh my God, who's watching this?
I know.
Who can possibly watch this?
Seriously. But the answer is both of us watching Get Ready With Me streams, which you've now talked me into, and is going to be this is going to be my new thing.
They're oddly satisfying, I'll say.
I would like to get ready with somebody. This would be great. My process takes like 4 minutes and involves a t-shirt. So I'm going to need to improve my Get Ready With Me.
It would hit on YouTube, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have the shortest live streams in history. Love this for us. All right, Mia, thank you as always. It's good to have you here. Let's drag some creators on here over the next few months and just talk through all this stuff. This will be fun.
Love it. Yeah,
all right.
Let's do it.
Until then, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and I have some hot takes that are going to get me fired. We'll be right back.
Support for this show comes from LinkedIn Ads. When you're running your own business, every decision could feel like make or break, and you can't afford to waste a penny. So if your B2B marketing is still falling short, it may be because you're preaching to the wrong choir, whether you know it or not. If you want to reach the right professionals, use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has grown to a network of over 1 billion professionals and 130 million decision makers, according to their data. That's where they stand apart from other ad buys. You could target your buyers by job title, industry, company, role, seniority, skills, company revenue, all so you can stop wasting budget on the wrong audience. That's why LinkedIn ads boast one of the highest B2B return on ad spend of all online ad networks. Seriously, all of them. So get your ads in front of the right people and make your B2B strategy work. You can spend $250 on your first campaign on LinkedIn ads and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Just go to linkedin.com/Vergecast. That's linkedin.com/Vergecast. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, we are back. It is time for another round of David yells his opinions into a microphone and subjects other people to them live on the Vergecast. Back with me to do this, Jake Kastronakis. Hi, Jake.
Hey, good to be here.
Hayden Field, welcome back.
So psyched. Thanks.
All right, so last week, I threw a bunch of AI-related takes at both of you, and in the spirit of our favorite show, Subway Takes, your allowances were to either 100% agree or 100% disagree, or I gave you the option to just bail because David is lighting his career on fire and I want no part of this. Neither of you picked that, either for any of them last week. I would say a lot of people have had a lot of feelings about my feelings, and I'm okay with that. And I have more of them. This week, this is the last one of these we're going to do, and this is just, I would say, sort of unordered thoughts I had strong opinions about over the course of a summer spent on my couch, reading news, talking to newborns, and hanging out. So I have 7 completely unrelated and unordered summer takes for the two of you. Are you ready?
If we're wrapping up, I have to assume it's because you get canceled at the end of this.
Yeah, if suddenly we only get through 5 of them, you'll know that 2 of them were, I just immediately, David is removed from The Verge, and that's the end of everything.
Yeah, you spent a long time talking to Annie on Grok this summer, didn't you?
Listen, you spend a lot of time on YouTube Shorts, and things just start to get weird. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, summer take number 1 is that podcasts should be listened to at 1x, and all other fast speeds are wrong. If you don't have time to listen to the podcast, listen to fewer podcasts. It's fine. 1x is the correct speed at which you should listen to a podcast. All other speeds are insane.
I've got to say 100% disagree for that one. I have a life. I have a brain that goes fast. Actually, I feel like, I don't know if my brain goes fast all the time, but you know what? When I'm listening to people talk, it does. I'm a visual learner. I can read really fast, but when I'm listening to people talk in my ear, sometimes they're taking a while to get to the point, you know? So I got to listen to 1.5x, 2x. Same with TikToks, you know? I feel that many people will agree with me about this, and that David, you could have such like a awakening if you could just, you know, be done with the podcast in 0.5 the amount of time as you would have before.
But just don't listen to the pod. It's so easy to not listen to a podcast you're not interested in. And I realize I'm saying this to a large audience of people who I assume listen to this podcast at faster than 1x, and me being like, well, if you have to listen to it too fast, just don't listen to it, is the most like self-owning thing I could possibly do. So please know that I understand what I'm doing here. Just watch and listen to less stuff. Like I have come to a point where it's like, to me, listening to a podcast at 2x is like looking at the AI generated summary of a book and saying you've read the book. You haven't.
I do have a take here that is a follow-up, okay? For me, it's not about that I want to listen to more content. I'm not like, oh, let me finish this podcast or this video so that I can like see the next thing. For me, it's really, I think, just the fact that I was raised in the Gilmore Girls era of people fast talking on TV. So I'm used to people talking quicker than they do on most podcasts. And I'm like, I gotta amp this up to the Gilmore Girls speed. That's what I was raised on. That's what I'm used to, you know?
That's a good take. My wife is currently watching Gilmore Girls for like the 55th time, which means I'm currently watching Gilmore Girls for like the 55th time. That show rips, and they talk so fast. That's okay. That's a decent take. Jake, you've been suspiciously quiet here.
Yeah, you know, the Vergecast is a work of art, and I think like you wouldn't watch Oppenheimer on 2X. You should not listen to the Vergecast on 2X. Every other podcast, though, do what you please. I strong disagree with you, David. Listen, sometimes I just want to get that info. I want to get in and out. I'm not here for the artistry, for the subtle pause. With deep apologies to our audio editing team, who are truly masterful.
Okay, wait. So here's my follow-up question for both of you: do you have a setting like? Universally, I listen to all of my shows at 1.5x. Do you have like a setting per show, or is it a thing you like dial up and down as you're listening?
For me, as I'm listening.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
So you'll start an episode of a show and be like, we gotta keep moving here, and just crank it to 2x.
It really depends on how slow the person is talking. You'd be so surprised at how slow some people talk. It's slower than my brain. Like, I feel like I have to calibrate it with the speed at which I think. I'm like, if you're talking at the speed at which I think, great. If you're talking like 3 times slower than I think, I've got to dial you up.
Okay. Jake, what about you?
I would say like most YouTube videos would be improved by a default 1.25x, like just a little bit more. TikTok, oh yeah, 2x on everything. Just like those things are
seriously
going. They made them. I set a 15-minute timer for myself on TikTok, so I can't watch too much every day. And this way I can squeeze 30 minutes of TikTok in 15 minutes. Not bad.
Okay.
It's terrible.
So what you just said is, I don't want to watch TikTok. So I've invented a way so I can watch more TikTok in the time I shouldn't be watching TikTok.
And have a worse time watching it.
Just don't look at TikTok, Jake.
Yeah.
This is...
I got to know what's happening on TikTok. How will I know what Stanley water bottle to buy?
But like the world would be a better place if everyone only listened to their podcasts on 1x, is really kind of where I'm landing on this.
That I 100% agree with.
I mean, I will say that it is zen to just not care how fast this person is speaking and really live in the moment. Maybe I need to meditate more, and maybe my form of meditation will be listening to podcasts on 1x and just really living in the moment and hanging on their every word, you know?
Do you guys have podcasts you listen to not because you like the host or like the storytelling style or whatever, but for like purely informational reasons?
I'm a visual learner, so I feel like if I only want it for informational reasons, I've got to read it or it kind of doesn't stick with me.
Yeah, I'm fully with you, Hayden. Audio is like, it's more for I don't know, there's like a hanging out vibe to it, right? But yeah, trying to get like news that way, it's not quite working for me.
Okay. So that's the one kind of podcast that I'm like, yeah, listen to that as fast as you want, right? It's the audio version of like skimming the headlines, just like 3x your way through whatever headlines podcast you're listening to. But I think I've just only selected for podcasts that I sort of like hanging out with, and putting those at 2x feels weird. The problem is, once you go up, you can never go back down, because then you're like, why are you all talking so slowly? What is like, why did you all do drugs right before you started this episode? And you're just like, no, this is how fast they normally talk. Like, I've had people meet me in person and be like, you don't sound like I'm used to it. And then they realize in the course of our conversation that they only ever listened to the podcast at 1.5 or 2x. So they're used to me just talking like this all the time. And they're like, why don't you talk like this all the time? It's insane. And I'm like, I can talk that fast. Like, we can do this. I can be this person.
Especially now that you're watching Gilmore Girls.
Oh my God. I mean, it's out of control. Also, a very strange thing has happened to me now that I have children, is I identify with very different people in those shows. And now I'm like, Lorelai's parents were basically right about everything. And Lorelai is kind of a menace. But that's for Hayden. When we record our Gilmore Girls podcast, we'll come back to that.
Perfect. Can't wait.
My second take is that Threads is good, actually. That's it. That's the whole take.
I'm going to agree with you. I think Threads gets way too much hate. And you know what? I'm going to go even further. The algorithmic feed, it's all right.
I agree.
Like, I feel like I enjoy Threads more than X or Blue Sky. Sorry, Mastodon. That's not even on my radar.
Mastodon
sorry,
is
David.
full of good ideas and not full of interesting people
Threads
doing interesting things.
Is pleasant. I feel like people on Threads, or at least the algorithm on Threads, keeps things pleasant and down the line. And I feel like on other social networks, people are very raw and passionate and intense. And I don't need that all the time. Sometimes I just want a laid back take about the new iPhone. And like, that's what I get on Threads.
Hayden?
I feel like I can't speak to this with actual knowledge, because for Threads, like I get on and then I leave. Like I post my story and then I log off. So I honestly haven't spent that much time like scrolling on Threads because I have so many social media platforms that I have to be on now that Threads is the one that one had to fall, and it's Threads for me. It's like I go on, I post my stories, I leave, I don't scroll.
Where do you scroll?
Blue Sky and Twitter. But yeah, Threads and LinkedIn for me both. I'm like, I go on, I post my thing, and I leave. I don't have any understanding of like what's going on there. Instagram, I scroll like personally. Blue Sky and Twitter X, I scroll like for work. And then the other two, I just kind of let fall by the wayside, and I'm there technically, but not in actuality.
So to me, my experience this summer over and over was that Twitter has essentially like lost its mind. It's a 10 out of 10 like right-wing cesspool all the time. Blue Sky is like the same, but on the opposite end of the political spectrum. Like I think there's a lot of fun to be had on Blue Sky, but I think the thing where the culture has turned into a lot of people scolding each other is real and true. It's at least more full of people saying things that are real than Twitter is, at least on my feed. But like, I just don't find either one to be a particularly good time. And Threads, I think, Jake, I had the exact same experience that you do too, which is like the temperature on Threads is not as high. And I think a lot of people in our business take that to mean, oh, it's not real time, it's not lively, it's not exciting, it's not what's happening, it's not the news. And to me, I'm like, oh, when I come to this, I don't want the news all the time. It's just nice to have some people posting about some things. And I think Threads has gotten better at being timely. Like I'm seeing many fewer yesterday and 4 days ago posts on my Threads timeline every time I open the app. So they're getting better with that algorithm. And it just like, I have a nice time on Threads in a way that I no longer have a nice time on Blue Sky or on Twitter. And I feel like that is, I hit this point where I was like, why am I subjecting myself to opening Twitter 5 times a day? Like this is an insane waste of time because I feel some like journalistic obligation to know what these lunatics are saying to each other. And it's just, I don't know. Like I think ultimately maybe the sort of boring middle is actually the right place for social media to land.
Can I tell you, Threads is actually the only other app on my phone that I have a timer on. And it's because it is pleasant, and because it's algorithmic by default, and it's like a decent algorithm, you can keep going forever. And I do not want to keep going forever. So yeah, I think Threads like totally pleasant. It's true, it's not as spicy. And that's kind of nice.
Okay, maybe I'll spend some more time on Threads. You've convinced me.
It took me a while because it's actually like you have to realize that being slightly bored by it is actually a good thing and not a bad thing. Where it's like I don't open the app and immediately have like a fight or flight response is probably a healthy thing for how we deal with our lives on the internet, but feels very different than I think what we're used to. Which brings me to my third take, which is that it's actually pretty easy to quit social media, and I think many more people should do it. I deleted Instagram and TikTok from my phone basically right as I had a kid, and have actually had zero impulse to put either one of them back. The thing Instagram does where if you click a link, it won't show it to you until you open the app is really annoying, but has not actually caused me all that much trouble. TikTok is fine. Somebody sends you a link, it opens in the webpage, you watch the TikTok, you move on with your day. I have essentially stopped spending time on Blue Sky and Twitter, and even Threads is like, it's there because I feel a sort of obligation to be around. But like, if most people are like in a place where they should spend less time on social media, and it's actually not that hard to do. And maybe we should just all quit social forever right now. Let's do it. Agree or disagree?
I feel like you're right in that, of course, we'd all be so much happier if we didn't have social media. But I will say, I think there are ways to use it in ways that are a little less harmful. So one, Jake's timer idea, amazing.
Yep.
2, something that I do that has always like given me a lot of peace is that let's use Instagram as an example. I don't look at who likes my stuff, and I don't look at who watches my stuff, so that I feel like I'm always just shouting into the void in a good way. Like I am not aware of myself being perceived. I'm not like, oh my God, this person from high school saw my story of this. I wonder what they thought. Let's think about this through their eyes. It's like, I don't know, so I don't care. I'm like blissfully ignorant. I just feel like I'm posting. This is how I feel. I think I would use Instagram the exact same way if I had no followers. Like if I was just posting for myself, I think I would do the exact same thing. And it's because since I don't see who's looking at my stuff, I don't like, really, I'm blissfully ignorant of anyone looking at my stuff. However, I do like to use it a lot as a messaging platform. Like a lot of times, maybe it's just like, something about people today, but it feels a little too intimate sometimes to ask for someone's like number. So you ask for their Instagram and then you message on Instagram. So I love using it as like a messaging app. Same with Twitter. Like I can message someone on there and then we can move it to another platform after. But I think all of these tools, their biggest value is in their like direct messaging features. And then scrolling and infinite scroll is like the thing that basically causes you internal turmoil and you have to find a way to address that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm like, of course we'd all be happier if we didn't use them as much, but I also think there's some value in using it in a way that's like measured if you can do that, which is hard.
So I agree, but I think even the premise of all of this is just like, this is an unavoidable thing that we have to manage the best way that we can. And I'm increasingly of the mind that actually it's really easy to quit. Like I was shocked at how simple it was to just not be on Instagram anymore. And like, do I occasionally feel like I'm missing something? Like, honestly, no. Like, I've probably missed some DMs, but that's fine. I think we do have a real like messaging problem across all of these different platforms. I've been using this app Beeper that we've talked about a lot on this show to try and like manage all of the DMs in one place, and that like almost kind of works. But in general, it's just like, I don't know. The thing that really shocked me was how easy it was to get rid of and how few times I have missed TikTok and Instagram and how rare it has been to like want to be on Blue Sky this summer.
I did once quit social media for like a month and it was very easy. Like it was weirdly easy. And I think it's just because, I reverted back to like my old life of just living in the moment.
Yeah. What a crazy idea. Jake, what about you? You've just been scrolling TikTok this whole time. You're not even listening.
Oh, sorry. Were you guys still going? You weren't going fast enough. This is the problem. I agree with you, David, but I kind of feel bad about it. I have never been very good about posting to social media, and there's a lot of I would say like acquaintances I follow, right? Like old friends from college, people who we used to work with, who I'm not going to stay up to date with them day to day, week to week, but by following along with their posts, I'm able to get some sense of what's going on in their life. And there's this really weird thing that happens where I'm like, oh, I know what's going on with you. I actually still feel like somewhat close to you. You have no idea what's happening with me. And you will not, because I'm not putting anything back out there for you. And so there is this sort of like interesting way that you can use this to maintain a friendship, even if I'm not really doing more than like liking a post. I think that's nice. Like it lets you keep up with people. I think all the things that Hayden talked about, where it's like, it shows you everyone who views it, shows you everyone who liked it. It's like, I can't not look at those things. And whenever I post an Instagram story, I'm like, did I post this at the wrong time? Is this inconvenient for everybody? Nobody's seeing it. And I'm like, I don't feel good about, like, I don't feel good, right? Like when I watch other people's stories, I'm like, oh, this is so nice. They're doing things. I'm so happy for them. And I'm just like, I feel stress when I'm posting. Yeah. So I would love for there to be a version of social media that I enjoy. I feel bad. And I think like not engaging on social media is maybe sort of like a net negative for like, I don't know, friends
society.
Who might, yeah. But also like, is it easy to tap out? And is it like maybe healthy for a lot of people to tap out? Like, yeah, like the people who I'm going to hang out with, I'm texting with them anyway. It's fine.
You know what's so funny is what both of you just described as the ideal outcome of this is original Facebook, where I have a wall, I post stuff on the wall, and if you want to know what's going on with me, you go to my wall and you look. Yeah. And if you want to interact, you can. And if not, no hard feelings. I'm not going to know either way. That's how it worked. That was good. Like that was the right thing. And then they realized that people would use it more if they made it feel worse to use. And now here we are 20 years later and everything's a disaster. Like, you both just pitched me on what if we had Facebook 1.0. And I think it's right.
I agree, but I will say I do remember in high school being worried that my wall posts were like too old, and I would call my friends and be like, "Oh, can you post something on my wall? It looks like no one cares about me this week." So even then we had some insecurities, but I agree, it was a better time. It was a better time.
That is very fair. All right, my next take, and this is kind of related to all of this, and this is the one I am least convicted on and kind of want to talk through. But my take here is that the anti-phone movement is real, and we and the tech industry should take it seriously. The people who are actively trying to get away from technology and not just talking about how terrific it would be to use technology less, it's a real and growing and powerful movement, and it's going to change things.
I disagree with the first half of that, but I think that you said two separate things, actually. I think if we're talking about the people who are like, I'm going to get a dumb phone, I'm going to use the, what's it called?
The light phone.
The light phone. Yeah. Like, okay, there's a small number of people who are going to use these things. Smartphone is fine. How you use the smartphone is not fine. As far as like the anti-technology, I'm worried about screen stuff more broadly. That I agree with you, and that I think is real.
Interesting. And you think those are separate groups of people?
Yes, because I think going for, a dumb phone or not having a phone and being disconnected, that's just like arbitrarily inconvenient. And I think like I would like to be less connected at home so I read more books. That's different, right? Like you can still do that and be capable of sending, of making a FaceTime call to your mom.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with what Jake said. I mean, because everyone I know that has a dumb phone or like a flip phone, it's one of their two phones. So it's like they bring it when they go out, or they bring it when they go hiking, or they have it in certain situations. But I don't know anyone that has switched it out completely, just because sometimes they need like Google Maps. Sometimes they like, even from a safety standpoint, sometimes they need some of those features, even if they don't really want to use them. I know people that have kind of turned their smartphone into a dumb phone in a way by like, bricking it during certain times, or, setting timers on apps, or deleting all apps except like 3, or doing the black and white screen thing. So there are ways, I think there's a lot of ways that people are trying to be less connected and less reachable all the time. But I don't know anyone that's just tossing their, smartphone full time for a dumb phone. Yeah.
That's fair.
And I think if you look at like, maybe kids shouldn't have their phones in schools. People are like, oh, you know what? We went a little far on that. And that's like, there's starting to be a shift there. And I feel like we're going to see more of that, where it's like these specific places and instances where we have overstepped with technology, where we're maybe a little too connected. But I don't think we're going to like fully throw it out the door. That feels like a little bit of an overreaction, or maybe like a niche trend than an actual like societal movement.
So you're on the side of like sensible regulation, not like let the Luddites take over the world.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's probably right. I think I just keep being struck by talking to a lot of people who are in the situation that I'm in, of like you're being busy young parents with young kids, and it's like trying to figure out
how many iPads you give them.
Yeah, like is it okay to be an iPad kid is like a weird and complicated question in life in front of a lot of people right now. And then I'm sitting there next to my kid like scrolling Reddit. And I'm like, what am I doing? This sucks. And so I've hit this point where and you read all these studies about like every time they do a study that's like, we took the cell phones away from a bunch of kids and their mental health scores went through the roof. And it's like there is something bubbling here. And I think we've spent a long time listening to companies essentially say, you can say whatever you want. We know how much you use our product. And the more we give it to you, the more you will use it. And as far as I understand, there's not a lot of evidence that that's changing yet. But like anecdotally, the smoke is real, that like people in some meaningful way are starting to pull out and fight back. And I just think I think we're going to start to see that show up in meaningful ways, because every time a company has even tried to like address that, like Instagram had the thing where it was like, you're all caught up. And then do you know what happened? They got rid of it because they were like, oh, actually, we want people to keep scrolling, and they will. And I think and I hope we're about to see that start to shift against some of that trend.
Definitely.
I hope. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're all gonna like bitch and moan about screen time as we ever increase our screen time until we're dead.
I think you're right, though. I mean, I have a friend that's starting like a movement for connecting in real life, and I'm going to one of her events this weekend or next weekend, and I'm excited. It's like, we're seeing more like community kind of almost activism, I guess, around like connecting in real life and how to just like hang out with people, which is sad that we have to do it, but it's cool that it's happening.
A movement to hang out in real life is like just a terrifying concept that needs to exist at all, but I'm glad it exists.
Exactly.
I don't know. I say this as I'm staring into my screen for the 15th hour today. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. On one hand, I feel like it has just been like enough years with social media, with electronics, that like naturally we're like kind of due for a little bit of that pushback. On the other hand, I was at the grocery store when TikTok got unbanned back in, what was it, February? And the cashier at the register was like, hey, she like said to her manager, she's like, hey, can I leave? Like TikTok's back online. And I'm like, yo, it was banned for like 8 hours. Like, you're fine.
It's gonna be all right. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I'm hopeful, but that is like, as a reporter, very much a thing I'm paying attention to now. It's like the smoke feels like it's there in a way that it has not been before. All right, my next take. This is the one I feel the most strongly about. All the streaming services are bad, and they should feel bad, and they have made the experience of trying to watch shows and movies awful.
I'll let Jake take this one first.
I will elaborate if you would like, but I feel this very strongly.
Oh man, there's just a whole lot bundled up in that.
Would you like me to make it simpler for you?
Yes. I'm going to take that lifeline.
It's just the last thing. At this moment in time, the experience of trying to watch TV shows and movies is awful.
I mean, I disagree with that. Like, it's fine. It's fine. I have like a nuanced disagreement, but like, if there's a show that I want to watch on HBO or Hulu or whatever, that's fine. I sign up for the service. I go to the service. I click the button. It plays. It's fine. Maybe if my Google TV whatever streamer is feeling good about it, it might even remember that I was watching that series and just put the next episode on my home screen. Might not. I don't know. But it's fine.
And this is a good experience that you're describing. This you're happy about this.
I can get there. I can like use my voice to.
I have to go to some unknowable app that I pay an unknowable amount of money for.
No. It's not. It's easy enough to remember what.
How much do you pay for HBO Max right now? Tell me off the top of your head.
Oh, it's too much money. It's like HBO Max is like $90 a month. I don't know.
Do you know? I'm serious. Do you know how much you pay for HBO Max right now?
20? I want to say it's 20 for the 4K. It's too much money. It's too much money for four. So, well, this is but I would make a distinction here, right? Like, is the experience good? Like, yeah, I can sign up easy. I can sign up. I can like turn off my subscription easy enough. The thing that I want to tell everyone you should actually do if you want to watch movies, do not just sign up for Netflix. Do not just sign up for Hulu, whatever. Just pay $3 and rent them for the weekend. You will spend less than you would if you were subscribing to a service for an entire month, and you get a bigger selection. You don't have to worry about which service you're on, which service you're not on. But if we're talking about TV shows, it's a little different.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, for me, it's not a bad experience, but I will say I've been really into paying for physical media. In Brooklyn now, there is a DVD store. And it's so exciting to be able to go in there. And I hope it survives. It's only been open for like 6 months, but I hope it survives. And right now you can go in and just buy your favorite DVDs. And now, I have a collection of my favorite ones that I watch over and over because I am a chronic rewatcher. I rewatch everything so many times. I think it's like an anxiety thing. It's very comforting to me to rewatch my favorite movies. So I have all my favorites and I can just do it at any time. Even old ones that are no longer on streaming services, like childhood Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, I can now watch them, you know? But yeah, I don't think it's a bad experience to, watch. I mean, it's annoying to have to Google which streaming service I watch whatever thing on. But, I think it's all about diversification and everyone should buy some DVDs from their local store to keep it alive. That's what I think.
Hayden, let me tell you what I just heard you say. What I just heard you say is actually streaming is fine, but it doesn't have anything that I want to watch such that I have to leave my house and go buy a DVD so that I'm able to actually watch the things that I want to watch when I want to watch them. That's what you just said.
Listen, that's not the streaming service's fault, honestly.
Yes,
there's
it is.
There's a lot of weird rights issues with my childhood faves. Like there's a Tyra Banks movie called Life Size that no one could find on any streaming service anywhere, not even Prime Video. So I had to order it on eBay like a Luddite, or minus the eBay part.
Hayden,
but,
this is the problem. This is the problem. I can't imagine if you went on Spotify and just like 4 out of 10 songs you wanted to listen to just weren't there and you were like, cool, I'll still listen to Spotify every day. Like, no.
That might be the case soon.
It's outrageous that this is where we have landed. That you actually pay as however many services you want to pay for, and I pay for a lot of them, you still can't reasonably expect to watch the thing that you want to watch, and that it will be in the same place when you go back to find it, and that it will have all the stuff that you want. I watch Always Sunny on Hulu. There are just a bunch of episodes of Always Sunny that Hulu doesn't have because it finds them objectionable.
Is that the show that put you over the edge? What was it?
I was over the edge all summer because what I have is a toddler who wants to watch the same movie 650 times in a row, and I can never remember where it is, and the search never works, and it drives me insane. And I'm paying $1 billion a month to have 70 different apps that are all really slow on my Roku TV, and none of them put the continue watching row in the same place, and the search sucks across all. It's just, there is more content available to all of us than ever, and it is being put together in the stupidest, most hostile way, and it drives me nuts.
The solution is putting K-pop Demon Hunters on a loop forever and never switching to any other movie, and then your toddler will be thrilled.
I also blame Netflix because it took Netflix like 10 days to put K-pop Demon Hunters on my home screen, and I was just sitting at home unaware of K-pop Demon Hunters for far too long.
Unfortunately, my entire Spotify Wrapped this year is going to be K-pop Demon Hunters, the soundtrack, and I accept that, but I'm not going to be sharing my Spotify Wrapped this year.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Also, Jake, by the way, I just checked, and you're paying $21 a month for HBO Max.
That's too much. I don't even know what I'm watching on HBO right now.
And David Zaslav recently said it's way underpriced, so that number's probably going to go up.
Yeah, that's not good. That's why I subscribe to this thing for like a month at a time, and then I'm turning it off because that is way too much money.
Yeah, because what's a better user experience than having to balance your checkbook against streaming 16 times a year?
It is rough. Yeah, I would pay a subscription fee for somebody to just manage these for me, and I would probably come out ahead. I'm coming around. I'm 100% agree with your anger, even if I don't necessarily 100% agree with this in practice.
I don't care whose fault it is. To be so clear, whether or not all of this is Netflix's fault, the fact that there literally is not a way for me to watch the movie The Nice Guys, which I tried to watch the other day, it literally does not exist in a digital streaming service, and I pay for all of them. That is dumb and bad, and everyone should feel bad.
This is what kills me. I'm going to
buy it for you at my DVD store and send it to you.
Yes, please. And then I will buy a DVD player because I haven't had one of those in forever. And then my life will be good again. I have come back around to especially for shows that I want to watch again. There are a couple of streaming services I basically subscribe to for 1 or 2 shows. And I'm getting to I'm just going to buy those shows on DVD or digital or whatever and then just watch them. And who needs the streaming service anymore? Okay. I need to calm down. I should have done that one last, and then I could have relaxed into the break. I'm going to give you a calmer take. My calmer take, and this is the second to last one, is I think we will look back on 2025 as the year self-driving cars actually happened. And I'm not sure we're talking about it. We're in sort of the boiling frog state of city by city, company by company. Waymo is starting to pull this off. The We've been lied to about self-driving cars for a full decade, but I think they did it now, and I think this is the year they're doing it. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's hard when you have a nuanced take on these things, you know? I've been covering...
Not allowed.
I remember... I mean, it's like, I guess I disagree because I don't believe that they've done it now. I think they've made strides. Waymo is testing vehicles in New York City, which they never did before because they said there were too many crazy factors that they couldn't really control for. And they always want some uncontrollable factors, but there were just too many in New York City. Now there aren't. So I do think they've made a lot of strides, but I won't really say they've done it until it's something that most people I know do to get to work, like City Bike, or like until it's as common as biking in general. I don't think I will say that they have done it. But I know in SF, everyone is loving Waymos. I've heard of some parents like putting their kid in a Waymo to take them somewhere. That certainly is, does mean that it's come a long way. But I think for me, until it's as common as, say, like biking, which, I have a handful of friends that bike everywhere. I feel like when self-driving cars reach that status, I will say they've done it.
Okay. That's a good take. Jake, what do you think?
I think you're right. At least that 2025 might be a turning point. It's not clear to me what has improved, right? Like, I don't know if the technology got better or if the regulations just got a little fuzzier and they're like, oh, let's see what happens. But it's Waymo in particular. I do not count the robotaxi. I'm sorry.
No.
But, right, like Waymo, which I assume cares more about their reputation.
And safety of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, like I've been hearing a ton about their rollout in San Francisco. And yeah, now they're in New York. So I've been hearing about at least some pushback to them. I believe it was Waymo rolling out in Boston, right? Like once stuff starts happening, like that means that the technology is improving, right? If they're putting it in a place that the average person can experience them, doesn't necessarily mean everybody's going to use them, but that feels like a turning point. I have not gotten a chance to ride in one yet. I don't know how the experience is. I don't know if they really are all there yet. And it does seem like there's still quite a few limitations to where they can go and what environments they're good in. But I am like changing your take a little bit, David. But I think you may well be onto something that like 2025, something happened this year.
I agree that it was a turning point.
Yeah, I think there will be like a chapter in the book about how self-driving cars happened that is 2025. And it'll be like the year real people started taking it seriously.
There was nothing for a decade, right? We went from zero self-driving to like, we can basically do self-driving, but actually they're not safe enough to put on real roads. And that was 10 years. And now this year they're like, we're just going to roll it out to a bunch of cities. And like, I don't know what changed here.
Uber and Lyft were promising that it was going to be 2020. I would remind everyone that those companies made a huge amount of noise and a huge amount of money lying to everybody about how close we were to self-driving cars. Tesla has been doing the same thing for a very long time. And I think personally, I got so jaded by all of that I got to the point where anytime somebody would like be bullish on self-driving cars, I'd be like, oh, congratulations. Like, whatever. I don't care. Now I kind of buy it. Like, I agree with you, Hayden, that I think we're a ways away from it being like ubiquitous in a really important way. And I think the sort of world tilt towards self-driving cars is going to take a really long time. But at this point, it's the like, do I think a person who doesn't pay any attention to this might get in a Waymo in 2025? I think the answer is yeah. And I think that's already happening. I think that's a big deal. That like, it just becomes a way to get somewhere, not a technology story.
I think they had, like you said, we did have 10 years without a lot of progress. But I do think for me, it's like I was getting all the press releases of the tiny incremental changes that they were making every year. Like they were testing in a new city. They were suddenly starting to test in snow for the first time.
Right.
They were suddenly starting to test somewhere with a lot of pedestrians and crowds that were a little more unpredictable. So I think for me, it's like I've seen incremental progress year after year, but it was nothing to write home about. And 2025, I think, is when kind of the snowball effect happened. Like all that incremental progress that was like kind of not worth writing about sometimes became worth it. And, I did drive in a couple Waymos last year. And I have to say my favorite thing about it was honestly that I could just be completely alone. I didn't have to talk to anyone. I didn't have to worry about playing my music loud. I was just like in my own little room, So that's my favorite part, just being solo and being able to play, K-pop Demon Hunters. That it wasn't out yet, but that's what I'd be playing now.
Are you guys nice to your Uber drivers? Like, are you people who like get in the back and like hang with the driver the whole time, or do you just like wear headphones, no talking, wave and get out?
I say like a very. I'm always like, hey, thanks for coming by, appreciate it, and then we're done. The thing is, they're in New York. They're on the phone with somebody. They don't want to talk to me.
Always.
Yeah,
that's very true. I used to like try and talk to people, and then I saw a thing that was like a meme of somebody being like, "So, how long have you been doing this for?" And the Uber driver like leaping out of a window, and then I was like, "Oh no, I asked that question to all of my Uber drivers." So now I don't talk very much.
I just get in and I say, hey, thanks. And then I put in my headphones and don't talk. Because, New York, I mean, they don't want you to talk. You don't want to talk. There's no false pretenses. But you know what? Whenever I take an Uber in Atlanta, I am in the longest conversation of my life every single time. I don't know what it is, but...
I have invented phone calls to get out of those conversations before. I'm not proud of that.
I'm going to call you next time.
Oh, that's a perfect segue. That was not intentional, but this is a perfect segue to my last take. My final summer take of 2025 is that we should bring back phone calls as like a normal thing that people do to each other all day, every day. But I want to bring back phone calls in one very specific way. And I want to bring back phone calls like cops do in movies, where there's no, hello, how are you? Let's small talk for 60 seconds before we get into it. We don't even say goodbye at the end. You call me, Hayden, you call me, I pick up the phone, I say, hey, you say, hey, was it in Brooklyn or Manhattan? I say Brooklyn, and you say cool, and you hang up the phone. Done. The end. We should call like we text, and we should do it all the time.
I could not agree more. I 100% agree. I think it's because my friends and I don't like phone calls that much, but we call each other a lot, so we have defaulted to that. Literally, I'll call and be like, "Hi," literally what you just said. I'll be like, hi, blah, blah, blah. There's no pleasantries. There's nothing. And we know the love is there. We know what's going on. Yes. And then if I'm calling for like, just to catch up, I'll be like, hi, I have no reason to call. I'm just like calling on a whim. And then I set the expectations. Then we can small talk and catch up about our lives. But most of our calls, it's like, if I pick up a call from my friend, I know it's going to be within like under 1 minute or 5 minutes. And that's amazing. And then if it's a whim call, great.
If you could assume that every time you got a phone call, the average duration of it was going to be like 45 seconds, I think everything about making and receiving phone calls would get better. That sounds wonderful. Like, Jake, I just want to be able to call you and be like, Jake, you'd be like, hey. And I'd be like, hey, 2:30 or 3? And you'd be like, 3. And I'd be like, cool. The end. Done. We're moving on with our lives.
The no goodbye is a key part. I love that. Just saying cool.
Nobody ever says goodbye in movies, and it drives my wife crazy because every time we're watching a movie, she's like, why didn't they didn't even say goodbye? And I'm like, well, that's not like an interesting part of the movie. People like small talking on the phone. But I think we should do it. And you're just like, cool, hang up. Done.
David, you should absolutely start communicating with me this way because I 100% agree with you. Dude, yes. I hate text messaging. Text messaging is so tedious. The amount of time and energy that goes into like deciding on a restaurant over text. No, get on the phone. You'll be done in 30 seconds.
Yes.
People are so afraid of phone calls and it is so much easier to get anything done. Do it. Call your friends. It's great.
And stop saying, how are you? Stop saying, hope all is well. Stop saying, what's new? No. If you have a question for me, ask me the question, and then when I've answered your question, hang up the phone. Which means we need all these companies to make it a louder noise when you hang up the phone again, because I need to know when you've hung up on me. So that's a product change I need these companies to make. Is like, I want a loud click now that the phone is over to let me know that you're gone. And
I really miss my Motorola Razr where I could... No, sorry, not the... Well, I miss the Razr, yes, but what I'm actually talking about is that I miss my Juke because it was even cooler. You remember you like flip it up like that and then you'd flip it down like that? It was so
It was like
cool.
You were like, it was like a comb from Greece that you were like flipping open,
It was so cool. And the funniest part is I never even had any music on my Juke phone. I only bought it because I loved the way you could like answer a phone call and hang up a phone call. Incredible.
The rules. This is good. I'm glad we agree. I think we have the power to start a nationwide movement to call like we text, and it will just make everything better.
I'm in.
Love it. All right. We need to take a break. Thank you both. I have no more summer takes. I've gotten all my feelings out, and I appreciate you both being here to absorb and reflect my feelings back at me.
It's an honor.
If I'm fired, it's been a pleasure to do this with both of you. All right, Hayden, you're going to stick around for a minute because we have a question from the Vergecast hotline that you are the perfect person to answer. Jake, you can go. We're going to take a break. Thank you both. We'll be right back.
Support for this show comes from Monarch Money. When you're young and you hear the phrase personal finance, it sounds like something that only applies to people with top hats and monocles. Then, when you become an adult, you may realize that fun accessories are not a prerequisite and that everyone needs to get good with money. Monarch Money makes managing money simple for everyone. It lets you track your spending, savings, and investments effortlessly, so you'll always know where your money stands. And Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It can act like your personal CFO, giving you a complete financial command center for your accounts, investments, and goals. So whether you're looking to clearly manage your spending or plan your long-term financial goals, Monarch Money can help. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code VERGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code VERGE.
All right, we are back. Hayden Field is still here. Hayden, thank you for hanging out.
Of course, it's an honor.
So I have brought you here because we've been talking a lot about AI. We got a bunch of good questions about AI, and we're going to talk about one in particular. But first, I just want to give a shout out to Remy, who sent us a very good question that included this paragraph. I wanted to say I love your AI coverage, especially since Hayden joined, who is a star. Just wanted you to know.
That's so sweet.
Shouts to Remy, who may or may not be Hayden's burner Gmail, but we'll talk about that later. So let's do a question from the hotline. As always, it's vergecast@verge.com is the email. 866-VERGE11 is the hotline. You can call, you can text me, you can stop Hayden on the street and yell questions at her, whatever you want. We love hearing all of your questions. This one comes from, I believe it's pronounced Filippo. And it says, I listened to David's answer to a listener's question who asked if Apple might not even believe in AI. The answer was measured and insightful as usual. Thank you, Filippo. This is not my burner Gmail, I should say. But it inspired one intuition. Shouldn't we differentiate much more the term AI? Like literally use more words to describe clearly the different applications and products it fuels/enables. Using only the general AI term is, I feel, doing us a disservice in terms of our understanding of the technology, its value and use, and separating buzz from reality. This is a thing, Hayden, you and I have talked in bits and pieces about for a long time, but I'm curious, you're the person on our team who has to live in this space all day, every day. It really feels to me like we desperately need a new vocabulary to talk about AI. Do you agree?
Yes, I really do, because it is something that it's tough because for me, like colloquially, the public understands things as just being AI. So I often have to write in that context, just AI and keeping it simple. But I remember even when I started on this beat almost 6 years ago, when I would write articles about AI, and this was before, generative AI was as much of a thing, ChatGPT wasn't out, et cetera. But when I would write articles about AI, I remember when I would do my fact check calls, researchers would be like, hey, you should really specify the type of AI we're talking about here. AI is a catch-all term. It doesn't really mean anything anymore. It means everything, which means it means nothing. Right. I, of course, kind of did just have to say AI because, if I get really jargony right away, no one's going to know what I'm talking about. But I do remember I had to write a lot of encyclopedia type articles defining a lot of different terms. And I think that we need more of that. I think we need more mentions of what the subcategories of AI really are. People are confused about AGI. They're confused about superintelligence. They're confused about AI. They're confused about deep learning, reinforcement learning, recursive self-improvement, all these terms that really will help people have a better understanding of how this technology works and exactly how it responds to you and why it responds the way it does. I think if we had a better vocabulary for talking about AI, it would actually be really, really helpful for combating, some of the misconceptions about AI that are out there right now, with people kind of thinking sometimes there are emergent beings inside it, or thinking that it knows more than it does, or thinking that it's almost sometimes an oracle that can predict certain things. Like, is it a good pattern matcher? Yes. And can it find amazing insights and trends within a large amount of data and, give great answers? Yes. But, with the rise of, some of the mental health concerns we've seen recently, I think that would be helped a lot if we could just use the actual terms and define them on how different models are trained and why. And also, these methods are changing all the time. So it'd be great to just have kind of like a, constantly updating vocabulary, showing people how AI is advancing and how fast it's moving, and then exactly how it works. Even though we don't know everything about how it works, we can explain a lot more than is currently being explained.
Yeah, the struggle for me with all of this has been that the solution just requires so much learning on the part of the consumer, right? That like to reckon with the differences in how these systems are trained is just a lot to ask of people, right? And it's like, I remember we were even going through this in like the early days of talking about virtual assistants and that kind of thing, where it's like, okay, I have to teach you the difference between reinforcement learning and neural networks and when those things overlap and when they don't. And it's like, I'm having to sort of give myself and everybody else like a computer science degree in order to understand how Google Assistant works. And that's just a lot to ask. And I feel like we're still in that place where it's like the only way to be more specific than AI is with sort of increasingly complex scientific terms. And I just don't know that that's ever going to work. And I think this is the thing that we've struggled with is how do we talk about this stuff in a way that is, like you're saying, accessible and understandable, that doesn't feel like school, but is still accurate. And I think, like, I know one thing we've talked a lot about here at The Verge is when do we call something AI versus when do we call it like a large language model versus when do we call it a chatbot, right? Because like a thing I hate, my least favorite thing that everybody does in AI is refer to the AI as if it's like a character.
Yeah.
That is not a thing. The AI does not exist. It is either some like interface on top of AI, maybe it's a chatbot, maybe it's whatever. But the AI as a being is such a bad mental image for people to have for all the reasons that you're talking about.
Or NAI.
Yeah, or NAI. Like any of these things, it is not. AI is not an object, and we should stop treating it as such. But it is really hard to know what else to call it, especially now. It feels like, in so many ways, the toothpaste is out of the tube on this stuff, and like maybe that just is gonna be what it's called, even though it's wrong. But it feels wrong.
For me, it's about kind of peppering, and I don't know if this is right, but what I try to do is pepper in these types of definitions in pieces that I write whenever I can as like a quick parenthetical, like when I define AGI in a piece, like I can't go without, doing a quick like parenthetical phrase saying what that is. And, with reinforcement learning, deep learning, all these methods, it's helpful to just have a quick like, one sentence or like 7-word way of describing it, even if it's oversimplified, that can kind of help people understand what's really going on here and the different ways in which the tech is advancing and how it changes and how it's trained and all these things. I think it's hard because sometimes you do oversimplify it and then people are like, well, that's not 100% right. But also, okay, you're trying to do it in like 7 words. So you have to be accurate and simplify without oversimplifying it. It's tough, but I think it's something we can do if we just like start bringing these terms into the public eye more. One example is large language models, right? I remember back when I couldn't say that term without it being too jargony.
Totally.
So I just have to say AI. Now, large language models is a household term, I think. Maybe I'm just in my own bubble, but I think it is. And so I can say that without defining what that is now, usually in an article. And so I think we can get there with other terms. So, hopefully we just keep building our vocabulary, do it a little bit at a time, and we get, to where we are with large language models with other terms, and we just kind of like increase public understanding of this stuff. Because the cool thing is, like you said, I mean, consumers, we don't want to put the burden on the consumer to, go to school basically and learn all this stuff. But the other cool thing is that consumers do want to know. People are super curious about this. And so I think with the combination of people wanting to know more about what is and isn't AI and what falls into every category and what's just data science and what's just if this then that rules and all these things, and us being able to, give them like kind of simple explanations. And then if you want to dive deeper, here's more. I think we can get there.
Yeah. Is there another term like LLMs? Like if you could just wish another one into like mainstream acceptability that would make your life as a reporter and writer easier, what would the next one be?
It's hard because it changes like by the month and by the year, you know?
It really does.
I remember there was a time when like deep learning would have been my choice. And then I remember there was a time when reinforcement learning would have been my choice. But now I think it would be recursive self-improvement. So yeah, I think it would be cool if people could know how these models are making themselves better and also the societal implications of that and the economic implications of that and what that might mean for jobs and things like that. I'm hearing that phrase a lot, and it's something that I think it would be great if the public could know more about. So I would say, yeah, for me, the phrase that I would want to make a household name changes by the like 3-month period, but right now it's that.
I think recursive self-improvement is also like a very good memoir title that you should maybe just lay claim to right now.
Perfect. Copyright it.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Hayden, thank you as always. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. That is it for the Vergecast. Thank you to everyone who was on the show today. And thank you as always for watching and listening. If you have thoughts or questions or feelings or want to just like call me and say something really short and then hang up immediately just to prove a point, you can always call the hotline 866-VERGE11, send us an email, vergecast@theverge.com. I want to hear all of your summer takes also. If you just have a feeling that is just burning up inside of you, call me, hit us up, and I will either 100% agree or 100% disagree or just cancel you entirely. We'll see what happens. But get at us. Like I said, please subscribe to Verge History. The first 8 episodes, the whole first season is going to be on the Verge feed. So if you're hearing or seeing this, odds are you will encounter Verge History when it launches on October 5th. But also please subscribe to the feed. That's an important thing that we look at in terms of like whether we get to keep making this thing. So please subscribe. I think you're going to really like this show. Also, the Vergecast is a Verge production and part of the Vox Media Podcast Network. The show is produced by Eric Gomez, Brandon Kiefer, and Travis Larchuk. We will all be back on Friday to talk about whatever's going on in the AI world, because there's always stuff going on in the AI world. We have some Google news coming. We have some Amazon news coming next week. Pure chaos in the tech industry right now, and we have an awful lot to talk about. Until then, rock and roll.